Welcome back to my channel on this beautiful March 31st, 2019. It's 11:51 a.m. And in today's video, we're going to talk about um, the movie Us that just came out, and we also going to talk about the abnormalities and the strong message that this movie gives out. Not only that, there's a connection between this movie and the Get Out movie. And I'm going to touch up on what the connection that I see is at the end. This movie just came out on the 22nd of March, 322, very significant number. We can start off by saying that the number 3 and the number 22 is a very significant number. 3 being the number of the royalty, and 22 being the number of double 11. It is also a recurring number 2, and it is the number of the master builders. So in this movie, we have a lot of references to the number 11. The number 11 appears about 3 to 4 times in the movie. It starts off with Jeremiah 11:11. Then the little boy points out the 11:11 on the clock, and we also see a sign with 11:11. The story centers around 1986, and it also makes numerous references to the Hands Across America. The Hands Across America was an organization and an event that took place in 1986. It lasted for 15 minutes, and it was confined to the United States, as opposed to We Are the World back in 1983. It was confined to the whole entire world, but the Hands Across America event was confined to America, where numerous people paid to participate on this event during the Reagan era. We need to keep that in mind because that's very significant throughout the whole entire movie. There's a reference to that. Not only that, you can also see it in t-shirts. So 1986 seems to be the focus of the movie. So the movie is basically focused on that time. But we see the discrepancies that there's an Alexa present. 1986 didn't have nothing of that type of technology. And we also see cell phones when 1986 didn't have high-tech phones. And the only phones that were available were humongous, and they were confined to cars and to the rich. I'm not going to focus so much on the color of the people because these are people. So we are referencing two people, whether they're black or white, because in this movie we see both. As much as I'm going to be referencing to the what they're trying to tell us, the message at hand. They're referencing to technology in 1986 when we didn't have such an advanced technology. And that leads me to believe that they're telling us that 1986, they were advanced than what we thought that they were. So that's the number 1, the advancement of technology, which was already there. They had it. They just hadn't exposed it yet. Another thing that I see is the references to an underground world as opposed to the one on top, which the one on top is being mimicked by the underground world. This is another reference to the Hmong people and the experiments that have been taken and has been seen more and more underground in those bases that nobody seems to know anything about, and those that wander into those areas turn up missing or dead. So that's something to keep in mind. The movie starts off really fast. It develops really fast. The story is very precise. They added extra things to throw you off, but the moral of the story is very, very clear that we're not dealing with double ganglers, we're not dealing with robotoys, we're dealing with actual clones. And the lady actually tells you what's going on. The twist of the story is that what's being presented to us as the real people are actually clones, and the real people underground are the ones that are mimicking our lives up here. But the little girl was switched from the beginning of the movie. She grew up and has special privileges that otherwise she wouldn't have had if she would never switch places. There's two families of focus here. One is white, very prestige and rich, and the other one is just probably a middle class competing with the rich family. We can see that and connect that to our current time right now. We can see people trying to mingle with the upper class and competing with them, and that can be easily established. One of the things that caught my attention was that from the beginning, the female character, which is the actual clone, is out of whack and not emotionally attached to her family and what's going around. She has an attachment to her son, and we later learn that the son is a clone. That somewhere along the line he was switched in one of the trips that they made, because this was a destination for this family to take a vacation at. So we can leave it to the imagination that the boys were switched in one of their trips. So this is why we see the strong connection between the mother and the son, and no connection with the daughter, because the daughter is actually human and the father is actually human. And we can see that by the behavior, the comical sense of humor behavior of the father, the chatty box, the talkative. So is the daughter. The daughter is in tune with what the government is doing, and everybody else is oblivious. And you can see that because the moment that she says, do you know that our government is putting fluoride in our water, it should have opened a conversation, and it didn't. So it can see the disconnection right there. So we can establish that the man and the little girl or the young woman are real people. So we can see the odd behavior. It's ironic to see that in the trailers for this movie, they refer to as anything other than clones. Double ganglers, imitation of people, not real people, shadow people. But they never mention the possibility that these are clones. And towards the end of the movie, when the two women confront each other, which is the real and the clone, they're battling it off. And the clone has the upper hand because the clone has been above ground and she has learned survival skills, something that the underground people are not taught. So she ends up overpowering the real person and killing her. But before that, you see her telling her that this was a government experiment and they abandoned it because of the simple fact that they could multiply and create people, but they cannot create the soul. So they're creating soulless beings, and this is what clones are. So we can establish that this facility with the rabbits in the cage is leaning more to a clone facility or a governmental experimental facility that is no longer being used. And to my opinion and my sole opinion, and me making the connections with everything that I know about these demonic people, 1986 is referencing to the start of the cloning experimentation and the duplicating of people. Not only that, but as opposed to all the previews and all the decodings that I've watched within the past 2 days before I watched the movie, my impression of the movie is that a lot of people have been switched. And we've had families there, they are living with clones and they don't know it. And 9 out of 10 times these clones were switched at birth. Because the moral of the story centers around this little girl that went into this mirror house that actually says, find yourself, which is a lore reference to how they snatch people and could be a reference to the entrance to the underworld. It is clearly being shown to us that the clone made her way up and actually saw her other self and decided to switch places, because this clone at the end of the movie, it shows you the sinister intentions, because she takes the little girl and she handcuffs her to the bed and she leaves her there. She takes her shirt, she puts it on, and she makes her way above ground. The reason that she cannot speak is because words are not needed on the underground, nor are they thought, because these are soulless beings. They probably were experimenting and decided to create people, So it is my sole opinion that this is luring to an abandoned facility where these people were left forgotten. And that becomes more credible when you see the clones coming up and confronting the real people. And some of the clones are not clones at all. They are actually the real people that were switched at birth, which you can see that with the White family and their daughters. They were clones. And you can clearly see that by the mimicking, by the behavior, because that's what clones do. They mimic. They have no feelings. They cannot feel. They have no emotions. They don't have a soul. They cannot connect. So they mimic each other. And you can clearly see that at the beginning of the movie with the two twins and the mother and the father acting sort of normal, but towards the confrontation with the clones, you can see that the two daughters are first taken as a revenge of, you stole my life, okay? And the other clones overpower them and how quickly they got rid of them, as opposed to the Black family that you see their clones towing with them. But that's not the clone. That's the actual real person that's towing with the clone. But because the clone has learned survival skills on the top ground, she came from under to the top. She learned skills that the people underground lacked, and we can easily see this by how she overpowers her real self and kills her off, and how she outsmarts her. It comes to show that these people are kept in a state of mind control. As you see the movie developing, you see that the underground world is mimicking the up world, and you can see not at its perfection. because the underground world has none of the privileges that the upper ground world has. So they are resorted to cannibalism. They are damaged. They seem to have neurological problems because a clone is not a real person. When you clone something, you're not 100% sure of what you're going to get. And this is why these clones are kept underground, and only some of them are allowed to switch. And they do it at birth because it's easier for the parents to raise the child. And we can see this because the parents of this little girl had no idea that in 15 minutes she was missing. And again, that 15 comes again into play. That 15 number comes into play because the Hands Across America event lasted 15 minutes. So the little girl was missing for 15 minutes. It took her clone 15 minutes to drag her underground, switch places, and become PTSD up to the point that she couldn't speak. So to the above world, she had gone through some type of trauma. So that is a red flag. Not only that, the little boy's vocabulary, it's a vocabulary that's being developed. You can tell by the words that he's experimenting. There's a lot of reference to that little boy not being a real human being, and to the mother not being a real human being. The offbeat, the off everything, the long thinking of what she had done, the lack of remorse, the lack of reasoning, the connection to her real self. It all lures to the simple fact that this has to be what a clone goes through when they know that they are not the real person and that they are impersonating another individual, because these clones cannot connect. Throughout the whole movie, the individual woman cannot connect to her husband. She's in her own world. She's in her own thoughts. And as much as she has tried to blend into society, she just cannot connect. Another thing and another reference is she is a vegan. She refuses to touch meat throughout the movie. It shows that she's different, that she's weird. But of course, coming from underground, eating, raw rabbits, I would assume that that's a trauma that they have to live with. So it comes to show the MK Ultra mind control references of these individuals come into play and how they react. And if only we were to pay attention to the abnormalities of how a human being is supposed to behave as opposed to the other individual, we would be able to catch up that we have been switched, and a lot of us are not what we seem. Not only that, there's a lot of reference to that. The simple fact that the wife cannot even connect with her husband as he's making a joke allures me to believe that this individual has no sense of humor, nor can they sympathize, nor can they smile or connect to what's being shown in front of them. So there's no connection there, and we can see that from the beginning of the movie that the woman is completely off. There's a lot of significant things in this movie that mirrors itself. Another thing that we need to ask ourselves is, how did she know where she was going when her supposed son got taken by the real her? If she's not the clone. So that's another question that I was asking myself. So throughout this whole movie, you see her thoughts. They're showing you her thoughts. She is aware that she switched herself with the real person. That's not to be debated. She is telling you she has memories. So she has overtaken somebody else's life. But the problem presents itself when the real person is telling the story that when she started to fall in love, the real person had to fall in love with a person that she didn't want because that wasn't her ideal man. So it shows you the two different mentalities of how the clone sees things versus the real one, and how unhappy the real one is to the decisions that the clone has made. So it also tells you that when she was receiving gifts, the underground people were receiving the leftovers. Everything was being mimicked. The underground real altar tells you, the real person, that if it wasn't for her, she would have never danced. So it's a mimic, as above, so below. So it's a perfect representation of what's being done underneath us, as opposed to how we are conditioned to live life. So the people above are privileged, but the people underground have no privilege, because we are real people. They are not. They are cloned. They are made in a lab. And the references to the bunnies in the cage, that's what it lures to. And that's a strong reference to a lab. Because in a lab, you will find rabbits along with rats. But rabbits are more experimental when it comes to the reproduction. And we saw that with the boys in Brazil, how they showed us the technique of cloning with the rabbits, and how a white rabbit was fertilized with a black rabbit's sperm, and she in turn had a litter of all black rabbits, when otherwise that would have been impossible. So we can see the manipulation of DNA, we can see the manipulation of genes, we can see that here, because even though both are connected, because they are a mirror copy of the real person, but can you imagine for 1 second if this was real? Like, if this can I mean, we already know that something is coming from underground. We already know that. It's alluring to that. Not only that, the underground bases and the underground bunkers that these people have made, something catastrophic is coming. So we already know that something is going to come above ground. And we already seen the many references of something being underground, and the simple fact that as long as we feed them, they will not come above ground. And that can no longer be denied. But what's really disturbing about this movie is, can you imagine if this was to play out? Not only that, the most disturbing thing about this movie is everybody is dead. Whatever has taken place and whatever the news is proclaiming, because they actually say, they make a reference to shadow people. They also make a reference to a brutal, terrifying attack by people who came from underground wearing red jumpers and scissors. Red is a very strong color, and scissors is an occult reference, but the red color, it's a very strong color for the Illuminati. It means next level of information, knowledge that has been separated from other areas such as blue. And then the blue is information between red and silver and orange. So silver is, I believe this may relate to most trauma cult groups and the likes. I honestly am not fully clear with the position of silver in the knowledge structure. So it may be in this position. The other colors I am sure about as to the article. The orange is, this field of knowledge generally relates to intelligent agencies. It is considered that the orange band provides information to the above colors and also attempts to protect the above colors from the below colors. So we can see that red is a next level of information. So they're literally trying to tell us something when they are using red for the underground people that live underground, which are a mere carbon copy of the people living above. Now, how is this all being done? Well, I believe, and this is my sole opinion, that 1986 is a reference not only to the agenda of Hand Across America and the event that took place, but I believe that Hands Across America was something other than what they presented it to us, and I believe that a lot of people have gone missing afterwards, leading us to believe that there's something going on that is unseen to most people and unimaginable to most people, such as an underground civilization mimicking the above world, which is our world. I wouldn't pass this by these ignorant people, and it is a clear reference that the real individual is torturing its clone, and we can see that by the simple fact that she takes her time by killing her. She could have just killed her like this, like they did with the white family, but she wanted to toy with her because this individual went through a lot of trauma. I can just imagine living all those years knowing that these people are not real, that these people are merely a lab experiment gone terribly wrong. The simple fact that the movie allures to the experiment being abandoned leads me to believe that these people might not have been destroyed with the experiment, but locked away as they do with everything else. You can only maintain an experiment in its containment but for so long before it is unleashed and before it becomes smart enough to realize that there is a way out. And I believe that this little girl saw that there was a way out. I believe that not only that, I believe that she realized that she can switch places, and she set out to experiment the above world by switching places with this little girl. The simple fact that she just didn't leave the little girl there and dragged her through the underground, and these people are looking but not reacting, leads me to believe that they're under mind control, that they are not with reality, that there's something terribly wrong with these people, that they are defected, that they're not the real thing, that they are emotionally disturbed, mind disturbed, because you can see that the underground is mimicking the upper ground, but these people are not acting normal, where the people on top are acting normal. But they're mimicking everything. If people are eating, they're eating. If people are just talking and chilling on a corner, they're chilling on a corner. If people are walking, they're walking. As we can see with the black family on the top and the black family on the bottom, as the story develops and it tells you how the little girl got switched, and the mimicking of the bottom of the world and the top of the world. There is no way that we can make this up. Seriously. There is just no way. At the end of the movie, it shows that, and it gives us a better understanding of what happened and how the little girls got switched. Not only that, but the creepy part about it is that the little boy recognizes that the mother is not the real one. She is the clone. And he enters into a realization that he is also a clone. And that's why the mask goes on. A mask is to hide. It's a form of deception. And that's what the mask throughout this whole movie allures. It's telling us clearly that the little boy is not the real person, and he knows it. Also telling you that the odd behavior of the so-called mom is not normal, nor is it natural. There's a lot of this connection and a lot of not emotionally being able to connect. The simple fact that during the conversation between the two women, she expresses the simple fact that she cannot connect. Too much talking, because where she comes from, talking is forbidden. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to communicate, because that's not being taught to these people. These people are not being taught. So when the two little girls got switched, the other little girl taught the underground how to speak, how to think, because she is the real thing. She has a mind, she has a soul. So that's where she talks about her spiritual calling and how she saw what she needed to do by teaching these people that there is a world above us that's mimicking ours and we can take it over. But we can also see that all these clones, they're not reasoning, nor can they be reasoned with. They are a killing machine. Comes to show that anything that does not have a soul has no remorse, no understanding of what's right and wrong and what's good and bad. And we can easily see this throughout the whole entire movie with the persecution of each and every one of the clones persecuting the real, and some of the clones that have the self-surviving skills are going against the real. And this is clearly a battle. And this is a battle that ultimately got won by the non-humans, because at the end you can see them making another reference to the Hands Across America. They are making that statement. They also made a statement that we are Americans too. This is confined to the United States, leaving us to believe that these things have taken place. They're showing us that they've done this, they are behind this. Not only that, they're telling us that something is about to come from underneath the ground. Not only that, it doesn't matter whether it's human, non-human, animal, non-animal, there is something coming from underground. And from the looks of it, not many people are going to be able to survive. Because in the movie, everybody was wiped out except them. So we can just imagine what took place and the kind of pandemonium that was set loose within the United States. Makes you wonder now and put together and think the wall and the key role that that wall is going to do. Is going to maintain this mindless, soulless beings in check and confined to the United States. And we can see another reference to how the wall is going to play its role. And I always said that that wall is not for what we think it is. It really isn't. Because if it was like that, then we would have done it a long time ago. Why now? And also, the simple fact, the simple fact that this movie came out on 3/22, which is a Skull and Bones number, leads me to believe that the royals are very much in control. They know what's going on. This is another eye-opening, exposed agenda. And not only are they planning an alien invasion, but something is coming above from below. And I cannot make that up. It's been alluring to that for a very long time, and we cannot make that up. The connection between this movie, I can go on and on and on, but I'm going to leave the rest for your imagination, and I welcome your comments. I spent close to 2 days listening to other people and what they thought about the movie. When I seen the preview of the movie, my first impression is these are clones, and they are going to overtake humanity. A lot of us are going to wake up to the simple fact that our children are not our real children. And that's what I picked up from the movie. That some of us have been switched and have been living a normal life when there's nothing normal about us. And this is where we get your narcissistic people and we get your demonic people, because these people are soulless. The connection that I see between this movie and the Get Out movie is this. They both are luring and suggesting that there is something going on underground as far as experiments and the transfer of consciousness. Not only that, the experiment aspect of the elite and those in power. That's what I see. That is the connection that I see. And we can easily see the MK Ultra connection between these two movies. The only problem is that we cannot look at them on the same thread. We have to separate them because one is alluring to how they kidnap people and how they mind control these people, and how easy it is to mind control someone without their knowledge, and what they in turn want to do, which is live forever. So they're using the strongest species in this world, which are the children of God, which are the people of color. And we can see this by the transferring conscious and by the simple fact that they want to take other people's bodies. So we can see this in the movie Get Out. If we put them together, okay, the Get Out movie coming out first and the Us movie coming out second, we can get the word Get Out US or Get Out Us. But Get Out Us doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to lean to Get Out of the USA, because the only thing that you're missing is the off. Us signifies the US. It's confined to the United States. The United States is going to play a key role in end times. Not only that, that is your modern day Egypt. The United States have passed laws and has taunted the wrath of God with its choices, with its decisions. And I am going to extend a warning that it's time to get out of the USA. This movie can be easily decoded as what's coming to the United States. And it's something very catastrophic, where you can see that in the movie everybody was wiped out and only a single family of 4, 2 being clones and 2 being humans. We see the split of the 2 plus 2 equaling 4. And if we look at what 4 means, 4 means the number of foundation. So right here, we got the foundation. 2 non-humans and 2 humans. That makes a foundation. That means that the offsprings will be hybrids, non-human. There it is. You have it. I hope you get it. If we put the Us and Get Out after US, Get Out, it's almost like the United States elites is sending a warning that things are about to get very interesting and you have the opportunity to leave now. I have a feeling that after 2020 and the elections, things are going to change up to the point that we are not going to be able to do some of the things that we enjoy now. Because we are entering a deep state where surveillance is everywhere. Every aspect of our lives is being under surveillance. It's like we're being studied, which leads me more to believe, and the stronger believe, that the underground is being taught the same as us, but under mind control. Now, can you just imagine for 1 second if this was to play out? Can you imagine each family being confronted by their clone? Can you imagine waking up to the realization that our children are not real, that they have been switched? This is why they are trying to get us to take all these vaccines and all this poison so that we cannot react, so that we cannot see. This is why it is required of us to be sober and be vigilant, because our adversary, the devil is running like a lion looking who to devour. I stand firm when I say that in 1986 something happened, and it has to do with the government and its experiments. And I solely believe, with the knowledge that I have acquired throughout these 5 years, and from my understanding as to how these people work, they are and have been cloning people, and they are not telling us what they're doing. They have created an underground civilization, and at the same time, they abandoned the cloning when they figure out that what they were creating was soulless beings, because you cannot duplicate the soul. So they figure out that these people are completely useless because they are attached to the real person and mimicking the real person. That will give them an explanation to fail the experiment and not continue it. Also, right now we are living in transhumanism, which is the merging of man and machine. Before, in 1986, they were just dealing with clones. They wanted to create people and see if it would work. They realized it didn't. They abandoned the experiment, and they came out with a transhumanism, which serves their agenda better, because not only is the body able to be machine mixed with flesh and can live longer, but they don't have to deal with the abnormalities that comes with a clone, because this is a machine where you can program or transfer the consciousness, and you can program this particular individual without the risk of what cloning brings. This is my sole opinion, and this is what I came to conclusion after watching this movie. There's no way I can make this up, and there is no way anybody can make this up. It just takes a little putting things together and knowing how these demonic people work and what they've been up to. They've been very busy while they've been entertaining us with sports, magazines, television, movies. They are not productive, and they mix lies with truth in the movies, but they mix more lies so that the truth seems so unbelievable, and we cannot differentiate. But a lot of us are waking up because the veil is being lifted, and it's time that we wake up, because our Heavenly Father is waking up His children from the slumber that we were put under, which was a spell. And that is reality, my friends. I welcome your comments. I will be putting all the material that I view and watch as far as this topic is concerned. And I hope that you can do your research and come to the same conclusion as I did. You have to expand your imagination, and you have to open your perspective and your perspective, because we need to think outside the box. We can no longer think like normal people. We have to think like these people think. And we have to speak their language so that we can understand where they're coming from. It is clear that this movie comes 33 years after the 1986 Hands Across America event. 33. 33 is a very, very powerful number in the occult. And I will leave you with this. The number 33, or the number 333, okay? Use the number 3 times, stands for 1/3 of the angels that follow Lucifer and rebel. So the 33 is not only a Freemason number, but the 33 is also a number that represents 3 threes, okay? 33, okay? You are referencing number threes. It's also a number that is associated with the third of the angels that follow Lucifer and rebel. And that has nothing to do with the war between the fallen and men. These are a separate war. This happened before the fall of men, and it was confined to heaven and the war that took place between Satan and the angels. We need to understand that, because there's a lot of things that are working behind the scenes for power and control, but the end game is the same. All these angels are leading men astray with the end game of Satan collecting his souls, because that's what Satan is. He's a soul collector. He doesn't make deals for the simple fact of seeing us happy and entertained. He makes deals to collect, and the collection is the soul, and we need to keep that in mind. The evidence is there, and I cannot make this up. Until next time with another video, take care everyone. God bless you all, and enjoy your day in the comfort of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Yahushua. Until next time everyone, take care.